In this game from Logical Chess Move by Move, we get to see one of the most brilliant attacking chess players of all time in full flight. Because with the white pieces, we've got Alekhine, the 4th world chess champion, and he's up against a player with the black pieces named Poindle. Now, Poindle is not notable to chess history at all other than for this game, where he gets crushed in rather brutal fashion, as we'll see. So it begins with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop to b5, the Ruy Lopez. Black goes for knight to f6, and white castles kingside. White is okay with giving up the pawn on e4, because he knows that, according to the theory, he'll be able to regain the pawn very quickly, either with rook to e1, or with the move played in the game, d4. Both of these moves are about equally as popular at master level. So black played knight to d6, winning a tempo against white's light-squared bishop, and now comes a surprising move, or surprising at least if you're not familiar with the Ruy Lopez theory. It's actually d takes e5, leaving this bishop undefended, because white knows that after the bishop is taken, black is unable to hold on to the material after a4. So this knight now doesn't have a safe square, and white will win the piece back. Now, according to the theory, black should go forward with the knight b d4. This is actually the start of the famous Berlin draw line. Let me just show that quickly because it's interesting. Knight takes d4, knight takes back on d4, and then queen takes d4, black can play d5, white takes en passant, black takes with the queen, and then there can be a draw by repetition, which is very well known and has happened many times at master level, after queen to e4 check, queen to e6 blocking, queen to d4, queen to d6, and back and forth they go until the two players shake hands as early as move 14. But that's not what happened in this game. Instead, after a4 was played attacking the knight, black chose to retreat the knight to d6. Now the best move for white here to punish this inaccuracy is actually bishop to g5. That attacks the queen, and if black blocks in the most natural way with bishop to e7, well, now you take the knight, because the bishop can't capture back, because that would lose the queen. So instead, black would have to take back with the c-pawn, leaving black with these doubled pawns, which is a long-term positional weakness. But that didn't happen in the game either. After knight to d6, Alekhine just took immediately, and black took back with the bishop. The bishop on d6 is a bit awkward. It's blocking the movement of black's own d-pawn. And now Alekhine played knight to g5. Now this is a mistake. Unlike the notation given to this move in the original Logical Chess Move by Move book, where it was given an exclam as in a good move, this is actually a mistake. You can see the engine evaluation on the left showing that this is not a good move for white. It's aggressive, but it's premature. What black should do against this early knight sortie is just kick it away straight away with h6. And now the knight can't sacrifice on f7. There's just not enough to bring the king out like this before white has finished development. So black is winning here with the extra material. So after h6, the knight would just have to retreat. Let's say knight to e4, that attacks the bishop, but then the bishop moves out of the way, and black is fine. Black is actually more than fine. Black's got the bishop pair on an open board. Black's ready to castle next move. So that's what black should have done. But instead, after knight to g5, one mistake was met with another mistake via bishop to e7. Now this is very natural because, as mentioned, that bishop was a bit awkward on d6, so black is trying to kill two birds with one stone here. Get the bishop off its awkward square via bishop to e7 and win a tempo against the knight. So what could be wrong with this move? Well, we'll show you exactly what's wrong with this move. It's the move queen to h5. So now black can't castle, obviously, because that would be checkmate on h7. And if black were to try and eliminate one of the attackers, then white would take back with the bishop, and now the queen is attacked, Note that you can't block with the f pawn because that's illegal. The queen is controlling that diagonal, so black can't play f6 to block. And so black would instead have to play the knight into blocking e7, but then white can play rook to e1 and white is winning material by force. There's no way to save this knight, and the black pieces which are defending that square are the king and the queen. So after any move, well, white can just take and is winning material. I think it's clear to see that. So what's black supposed to do after queen to h5? Well, it turns out that black has already lost here. White has to play accurately, but we're going to see how white does it. If you're enjoying the video so far, by the way, before we get into how the game continued, do click subscribe. I'll be continuing the series on logical chess move by move very soon. Eventually I'm going to cover every game from Chernev's classic book. So by subscribing, you won't miss out on any of the future videos in the logical chess move by move series. Well, here black tried g6, just trying to win a tempo against the white queen, but then white stayed aggressive by playing queen to h6. Now the threat is to come into g7. Black still can't castle because now the queen controls one of the squares that black would have to castle across. So what is black supposed to do here? Well, black played bishop to f8, trying to evict the white queen, but then white played a strong intermezzo move, rook to e1 check. Now if you block with the bishop, we see the same problem. The queen does get into g7, so the rook's attacked. If the rook goes to f8, trying to save itself, well then the knight can take on h7, and actually the threat here is queen takes f8 checkmate, because if the queen is able to take on f8, the bishop is not able to take back because it's pinned. And if black gives themselves an escape square, well, that doesn't actually work because knight to f6 is checkmate. That's check to the black king, the bishop can't take, and the escape square is covered as well. So yeah, it's all very bad for black. The move that black played was the best out of a very bad set of choices. Knight to e7. So the knight is pinned now. The white queen is still attacked. But what do you think Alekhine did here? Well, he made a move which I often talk about on this channel. It's answering the threat with a bigger threat. How can you do that? With the move played in the game, knight to e4. So now black doesn't have time to take the queen because then it would actually be checkmate in pretty short order after king to f8 and then bishop takes h6 is checkmate. So yeah, don't retreat if you don't have to. Try keeping on playing forcing moves just like Alekhine did here. So after knight to e4, the threat is also still knight to f6 checkmate, even if black doesn't take the queen. So black played f5, desperate stuff. White's able to play knight to f6 check, and then king to f7 is forced. And now the queen is still attacked, so Alekhine retreated it, but retreated it in a way that kept defense of the knight. Then came bishop to g7, looking to develop. I think another move here, as pointed out in the book, which is quite tempting, was knight to g8. So that is looking to add a lot of pressure to this knight, and the knight can't move away, because if it did move away, then white's own queen would be captured. But Alekhine had it all figured out. In case of knight to g8, there's the important check, queen to c4 check. Now if black goes to g7, then there's knight to e8 check. And that actually forces black to give up the queen. That's the only legal move because there's no other square for the black king to move to. Every other square is covered by one of white's pieces. So giving up the queen is tantamount to resignation. So if you instead take the knight, well then there's a skewer. The queen goes back to h4, and once the black king moves to any square, then the black queen will be lost, and again black can resign. So instead, after queen to h4, we had bishop to g7. So now the knight is attacked, and just an extra defender was added, developing a piece while also defending the attacked piece. Very good play just by general principles. But then h6 was played, and once again Alekhine had just one move here to keep the advantage, and he played it. Of course he did. Queen to c4 check. So now what can black do? Well, if you try and play d5, then again knight takes d5 is going to see a massive material loss from black's point of view. If you take back with the knight, then you lose the queen. And if you take with the queen, well then there's rook takes e7 check. That's removing the defender, right? A move ago the knight was defending the queen, but now after the knight is gone, then the queen is lost. And once again, white is totally winning. Now, if you're looking to build some of Alekhine's attacking flair into your own chess game, then just to let you know, I help ambitious adults improve their results in chess at the below 2000 ELO level. So if that sounds like you and you're serious about improving, then go ahead and click the link in the description below. It's the pinned comment or at the top of the description. We can set up a time to chat, talk about your goals in chess, and see if working together will be a good fit. So after queen to c4, king to f8 was played, and here there's a tactic. I'd invite you to pause the video right now and see if you can find what Alekhine played next. Often when you've got an activity advantage in chess, the tactics appear, and there is a tactic here. Pause the video now, try and find it. Well, you can do it in a couple of different orders, but Alekhine played rook takes e7 first. Now, if you take back with the king, then clearly that's not working. There's knight to d5 double check, and once the king moves, then black's queen is again lost. And if you take back with the queen, as happened in the game, well then there's another check, knight to h7 check, and after the knight is taken, the black queen is lost, and black takes back with the king. Okay, so black has lost their queen, but if we do a material count, black actually has quite a bit of material in exchange for the queen. Let's do a material count. So white has a queen, but black has an extra rook, minor piece, and also an extra pawn. Okay, so according to the traditional value of pieces, a queen being worth 9, well a rook is worth 5, a bishop is worth 3, a pawn is worth 1, 5 plus 3 plus 1, that's 9. So is black actually okay here? Well, you can see on the left again, the evaluation bar, clearly black is not okay. So why is that? Well, black is not okay here because even though material is somewhat equal, black has major king safety problems, and black also has major development problems. The rook and bishop are both still on their starting squares, and it's going to take black a couple of moves to get them into the action. It's true that white's own rook and knight are also on their starting squares, but you'll see that they're able to come into the play a lot more quickly. So from here, white took on c7, which is a bit inaccurate, as pointed out in the book. A much better way for white to have played would have been to play queen to g8. Now that looks to win the rook, and well, you can't move the rook because then you lose the bishop. So the rook is going to get lost here. What can black do? Well, I think perhaps what Alekhine might have seen was king to f6, and then after the queen takes on h7, maybe king to f7 makes it seem as though the queen is not going to be able to get out again. So that is perhaps what concerned Alekhine. But actually, white is fine here. White is able to develop with, let's say, knight to c3, and yeah, there's not time really to create scary threats for the white queen. If you try with, I don't know, a move such as this, well then white will just give up the rook, and then the queen escapes, and we've got a knight and a queen versus a rook, and that's resignation time. So what happened instead was, yeah, Alekhine simply took the pawn on c7, okay, and Black took on b2, so both sides have won a pawn from their opponents. So material is still equal, but we can see that white is still clearly winning. Rook to a2 was played, bishop to f6, countering the threat. And now this move, c4, has the idea of bringing the rook over to the e-file, getting the rook into the action, and trying to cause problems for the exposed black king. So king to f7 in anticipation of that rook move, but it comes to the e-file anyway. Now black plays the rook back to h8, trying to get some coordination and threatening to play bishop to d8, looking to evict the white queen from its strong post. But Alekhine just preempted that by playing queen to d6, and you'll notice that it's very hard for black to develop their queen side. This pawn can't move at all because the queen's in the way, and if you play b6, then there's simply queen to d5, which would be a check. Let's just show that. If b6, then queen to d5 check will pick up the rook in the corner, and again we've got a massive amount of material in white's favour at that point. So if black can't develop this way, then what can black do? Well, black tried to play a5, looking to bring the rook out via a6, but then we got knight to c3. Now this is a great move because it's a move which seems not to be possible at first because, well, the bishop is attacking the knight. But one of the things in chess is that calculation trumps everything. Alekhine was fully capable, of course, of calculating that if the knight was taken, then there's a forced checkmate in 4, starting with rook to e7 check. We can look at a few options here. If the king goes to g8, then there's queen to d5 check, king to f8 is forced, and then queen to f7 wins the game. And if the king were to go to f8, well, this ability for the rook to move and create a discovered check is just going to be too much. Rook to d7 unveils that discovered check, and then wherever the black king goes, there's going to be checkmate, either on e7 or on f7. So the moral of the story is that after knight to c3, the bishop can't take the knight because it would give up control of the e7 square. So what happened instead? Well, we got rook to a6. This was black's idea, right, to attack the queen, but the queen escaped from that threat with check. The king went to g7, and then the knight comes into b5 with the idea of coming in soon to d6, creating the threat of checkmate on f7. So black played rook to e6, looking to win a tempo against the white rook, hoping perhaps for a trade, but then white played knight to d6 anyway. The point being, you can't take the rook because that's just checkmate in 1. So after this, black played rook to d8, but then white simply played king to f1, and black resigned here in view of the fact that, well, now this rook is defended, so if you captured here, white would just take back. And the threat that's coming in is to, I mean, what does black even do here? It's hard to even suggest a move. King to f8 is the engine's top choice, but then the knight takes on c8, the rook takes back, and then, well, you're going to win this rook here with check, and once again, it's game over. It's game over for black, and black resigned in this position after king to f1. So we can see that an early inaccuracy really caused all of black's problems. I mean, Alekhine made some inaccuracies too in the opening, but there's an expression in chess that the winner of the game is the player who makes the next to last mistake. The next to last mistake was knight to g5. The last mistake, or the last mistake that had an influence on the game, was bishop to e7, and after that Alekhine played like the champion that he is, queen to h5, and there was no let up in the attack after that. If you enjoyed this video, then click here to check out the next one in the Logical Chess Move by Move series. Every game from Chernev's classic book will help deepen your understanding of chess middle games and ultimately help you secure more victories.